Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. It's Monday today. It's my day off filming. So here I am with the camera in my hand. But what I'm actually doing is using a nothing day, whereas the only thing I have to do today is sort the deicers out, and that's not the normal, just changing the tray. It's a big deal. So I'm going to film that while I do it, because I don't want to leave the job until tomorrow. So I am filming on the Monday, but I will be posting it tomorrow on Tuesday. I'll just outline what I'm doing at the beginning. That way anybody not interested can bail out, because I know not everybody's interested in deicers. There's probably a lot of countries where you couldn't get any even if you wanted them, and a lot of people would not choose to grow them because, well, they're not necessarily difficult, although some of them are proving difficult for me. Typical new genus, these things happen. But anyway, the workbench is an active tool in the deicer management. So what I do is effectively I put that next to the table here, overhanging, with the empty black tray on it, and then I lift the pots up, let them drain a bit to get as much of the old water out as possible, move them into the empty tray, which leaves that tray empty of pots but still full of water. And then this time of year I can literally open the door wide, take that tray outside and just chuck it on the garden. It ends up going up there where that tulip is, there, in amongst all that ivy. Hopefully some of it will go on the rose that's growing there, because it has got a bit of feed in it. So then what's going to happen? That gets the pots into an empty tray, which I can actually lift. And that is sitting on the workbench. So that's all going to get moved over here. I'll move my little table so that the tray full of pots is on the workbench here next to this workbench. So they're alongside each other. And then I'm going to get my other tray that I normally do my repotting out, and if you look at the deicers, we've got quite a lot of what look like empty pots. We're going to investigate those, so I'm going to tip them out, and if there is no sign of life, then I will delete that particular pot from my notes and it will be classed as lost. So that's possibly going to get rid of that one. And 1, 2, 3, 4, possibly 5, because it looks like everything in that pot's died as well, maybe even 6. But it's going to get rid of some pots. Then we've got what's left, and some of those are not doing so well, but some aren't doing so bad. So they're not going to go back in the big tray. They're going to get moved to smaller trays. And then while we've got a mess and we've emptied some pots out, I'm going to pick on one of the pots that doesn't look bad, that's a duplicate. In other words, there are 2 potfuls with the same tag. So I'm not risking losing the actual deicer from the collection. I'm only risking 1 potful. And I'm going to tip it out and I'm going to separate the plants. And the smallish ones are going to get potted up as a community. And the larger ones are going to get potted up singularly in much smaller pots, but as a separate plant to grow on and hopefully to bloom. And then we'll see where we go from there, because basically there's too many of these pots that have been lost, and lots of my investigations and research and everything I've come across, I followed the guy's advice that I got them from, and I can't find that anywhere else. So it's something that's obviously working reasonably well for him, that's been well practiced over many, many years, and it didn't work for me. And that's where you take a pot and split it into 2, 3 or 4 and don't do anything else. You just pot up those pieces in the old media, surrounded by new media. Well, that cluster in the old media is where this year's flowering plants are. And they're stuck in old media. Yeah? So I think therein certainly lies the problem for me. But I've got to prove it. I've got to do an investigation. So that's what I'm planning to do. I will film bits of it. I'm not going to just leave the camera running because, you know, I will have breaks because obviously there's some heavy lifting going on. That tray is heavy when it's got the water in it. And then this time round they'll go in clean water because the last couple of times they've had a tiny bit of feed to go with them. And it has shown some growth on some of the plants. Some of the plants are putting on new growth. So we will investigate the Deesas more thoroughly and hopefully set some up to actually get some to bloom this year. So I'll be back. Okay, so all the Deesas have been transferred into the empty tray, and I've had a look on my notes, and one of the plants was actually split into 4. Yeah? 2 of which appear to be empty pots. So that's that one there. Let's get them out individually. So that's 1, 2, no, not that one. So I'm looking at the tags. That one, and that one. Right, so as you can see, this was a single plant, so it would have been in this size pot like that, yeah, and it was broken into 2 in half, and then each half was broken into 2, and then that was potted up in these pots. Now we're going to have to make a mess. Can I do something about it? No, run out of trays. Run out of room as well. So we will make a bit of a dribble. So be it. It's working with bog plants, that's what happens. So that all 4 of these are the same plant. That, because it's got the original tag in from the guy I bought it from, is probably the original one. But then I doubt it. I know what's happened here. It wasn't one plant split into 4. I'll just pause a minute, I'll go and check my notes. I got a feeling I had 2 of these. I'll just go and check. Well, my notes show it being as a single plant split into 4. If that's the case, then 2 have failed miserably. But already in the very corner of that pot with nothing in it, no, it's rotted. I was just going to say there's a green shoot. There's another little one there. That's not worth keeping. This plant, I assume, has nothing in it. It's got one bit rotted off. So first thing I'm going to do is empty these out and see if there is anything in there. See if there's any tubers that have actually got shoots on that could be rescued. If not, then that's 2 pots less. This is a messy job because everything's obviously soaking wet. So we will take this out. I'm just checking something here. They're actually potted quite deep in the pot. Now what you'll have here is this is all the new media falling off, leaving the bit in the middle which was the split. You can see where the moss is. There's nothing in there. There's a worm. See, now that would have come with it. That may have caused the problem. I doubt it though. So nothing in that one whatsoever. I suspect we're going to get the same in here because that one green shoot over there is actually rotten. Yeah, there's nothing underneath it. So we'll take this one out as well. Same thing applies to this one. The square of moss in the centre is the original bit that was split. And all the new media went round the outside waiting for all the lovely new growths. There's just nothing there. There's that tiny little plant there. No, it's not viable. So that's 2 empty pots so far. said this is a mess. It does get mucky. To wash my towel. Still, I'm certainly not going to apply this to all of the Disas today. This is an experiment because I haven't done this sort of thing before. This is an experiment to find out whether it's worthwhile applying the same logic to others where I've got multiple pots. If I've only got one pot, the chances are it was a small pot that was potted on into a bigger pot. Well, that either makes it or it doesn't, if you see what I mean. Whereas this was a split, so it is different. Now what I've got to try and do now is see this is a split that's grown on nicely. I can see the square of moss in the middle, the quarter of the original pot, and some of these plants have shot out round the side. That's what's supposed to happen. So that one's okay. And then this is probably what was left. And this has got flower spikes on it. So this was the bit that was actually in flower at the time. This has got lots of new growths. So again, this is doing what it's supposed to do. The only problem with it is they're not growing well. So I'm still going to risk taking one of these out. That one's got a lot of new growths and they're in new media. So that pot I'm going to leave as is. The only thing I will do is I bet if I tug that flower spike it just comes out. Yeah. And there's another one there. See, they rot off. This is the problem. The Disas, when they bloom, they're effectively committing suicide. Literally, because they will then die. They bloom, they die. But during that season when it blooms, small plants should be starting to grow. And these don't have a dormant phase in the winter or anything like that. Those young plants, see, all the instructions, everywhere you read, everywhere you go, apart from the guy I got these from, say that come the autumn time is the best time, if not early spring, is you unpot them and you take all those new little growths up and pot them up, yeah? And the old plant you just discard, because if it isn't dead yet it will be, and it will rot, and then you've got rot down in your media. So it says get rid of that and start again with the fresh new plants. And the other thing you read is most of them will actually say that they need the old media taken off incredibly carefully because the roots are fragile, and start them again, potting them up in fresh media, so there isn't any old media. And that's what you will read in most places. So that's what I'm going to do to this one. But prior to doing that, I've got a tray full of muck with old media in it, in amongst it like that. It's difficult to keep all this separated, so I'm just going to have a quick clear up first. I'm going to do this in stages. I'm also going to make a coffee. I'll be back. Right, just got rid of the old stuff in here. Now this pot here we're going to leave as it is because quite a few of the new growths are around the edge of that quarter in the centre, so they are actually in new media. So, and this is the one I'm going to take out and we're going to have a look. This is actually Disa Betty Arnold Clone 15. Why it's got Clone 15 as part of the name I don't know, but so be it. But this guy does do hybridizing himself, so you know, he may have produced a load of seeds, and to differentiate because they're variable he might have put a clone name on it, so to speak. So the idea is we're going to get this out very carefully. These are fragile plants, both the plants and the roots are fragile. I'm just gently going to lay that down on this side. Now the first thing I can see is lots of roots. This is good, but half the pot hasn't got any. Yeah, so I'm not going to tip that out in there, I've just cleared up the mess once. So what have we got then? See, there's a little plant that's just come out on its own, and I only touched that root and it broke. So that may or may not grow on, I don't know, with a broken root because it hasn't got its root tip now. This is how fragile these things are. They are incredibly fragile. Just trying to separate off the individual plants if I can. That plant doesn't look too happy. Its growing tip's gone, so I'm going to dump that. Whereas this one does have a growing tip and it does have some roots. And what I'm going to do with these is any that I find that are okay, you're probably wondering what the water in the jug was for. If I can manage to do all this without getting dirt in my coffee, I'll be well impressed. Because it's going to fall off my hands, that's the thing. So what I was going to do is rinse them. Rather than try and tease the media off, I'm going to rinse it off. So that little plant is ready to pot on. So that's one, along with that one. We will give that one a rinse as well. And any manky leaves or anything we will take off. So that does have a root, but it hasn't got a root tip. So it may not grow. I don't know enough about these to know that level of detail. I'm just gently separating them and then see what comes apart, see what actually happens. See, we're getting into the old media now, the centre part, and it's almost solid moss. Right, so we've got a little plant here. And that's got a couple of roots, not much of a root system, but it's got some, so it's plantable. This is the first reasonable sized plant that is highly likely, just going to take any dead leaves or anything, take them off. It always says remove dead bits or anything like that because it encourages rot. And instead of pulling and tugging, let's use the scissors, that's what they're there for. So that's the first, what I would call, actively growing, nice little plant. And let me just give it a rinse so you can see. That's got the little bulb on it. So that one may bloom. This was the strange thing, you know, when I arranged with the guy to buy some of his plants, I was expecting him to turn up with, you know, little pots with a plant in, not huge potfuls. You know, a pot with, you know, a dozen or more plants. You know, again, that's got a little stolon, I think that's what they're called, and some roots, so that can be potted up separately. And we'll just trim the ends of those leaves as they're brown and liable to rot. Keep the plants as clean as I can. Oops, get the coffee out of the way. So there's another little one. I've still only found one plant in this pot that I believe will grow on and bloom, although this might be the next one coming out here. There's another little one here that's just come off the side. That's got some roots. So we'll put that. All these little tiny ones are probably just going to go in a single pot to grow on. However, this one, this one is a blooming sized plant. This looks like quite a good plant. In fact, it's got the bulb on it. It's got roots growing from the base. That looks like quite a good one. So that's the second one that's probably going to bloom. And there's another one round here when we get there. See, some of these plants are falling apart. They're rotting in the pot. And this is something I don't understand. You know, they're planted in what is recommended, not just by the guy I got them from, but from many other places. They're in the right media. They're standing in water like they're supposed to. So why are they rotting? See, that looks like a good plant, but it's not. It's rotted off the stolon. You can see, so it's gone. That would have been a big plant. But if they're rotting in the... but again, that plant was sat in the old media, as is this one. There's another little one there, but it's not got a growing tip, so we'll forget that one and just see what this one's like. Hopefully this is a good one. The old media doesn't want to naturally let go on this one. That's better. Don't mind a little bit left on. So now again, that's got the bulb at the bottom and it's got some nice new root tips. So it's actively growing and it has a growing tip, a growing centre. So again, that one hopefully will grow on and bloom. So out of that huge pot full, we've got 3 that have got bulbs on the base that could possibly grow on. They've all got growing tips, so that they have a new leaf forming, and they all have roots and they all have a bulb. So I'm going to put them in one pot. Yeah. Then the little ones over here, we have 1, 2, making sure they've got a growing tip, otherwise they're not worth keeping. 3, 4, we've got 5, and again those will all go in those can go in a smaller pot. They don't need to go in a great big pot like this. So we've got 8 plants out of that one pot, and this may be the problem. It may be that there are just too many plants crowded in together. Looking at pictures of them in the wild, growing, alongside the streams and things, coming down Table Mountain and that, they're nearly always single plants. So their natural progression would be for a single plant to produce some new plants and plantlets, and probably only the strongest 1 or 2 actually survive. I don't know that, I'm guessing. Right, so we've got a bit of potting to do, and this time I am aware that this is the wrong time of year to be doing this. It's a bit late in the season, but I think it's going to be a worthwhile exercise. I also think for the size of these plants, these pots are possibly a bit too big. But because they're bulk plants, they're not subject to the same sort of things that are the orchids we're used to are, where being tight in a pot is often beneficial, although a lot of the time that's just to stop us overwatering. You can't overwater these, they're sitting in water. So, the only thing that could be wrong is my mix. Now, the guy said, and others have agreed with this, so this is not going out on a limb, this has been said by many people. Proper peat, not substitute or anything, is the best. In the not too distant future that won't be available. It will certainly in the UK. You won't be able to get it because it's going to be illegal to sell it. Therefore there will be no point in people stocking it. But apparently there is a proviso that the trade will still be allowed to import. They won't be able to get it from the UK, but they will be allowed to import. They'll obviously have to pay fees and stuff like that. But places like carnivorous plants nurseries and things, they need the peat, they need the proper stuff. It's what those plants have evolved to grow in over tens of thousands of years. And just because some poxy government official decides we're not using it anymore, I like the idea, don't get me wrong, but that's already been dug up, we just as well get on and use. Just stop digging it up, that's what we need to do. And repair possibly some of the damage that's been done to the areas of peat. That's just a matter of leaving it alone and letting it recover, I think. It takes a long time though. Yes, so there is a proviso, I believe, for the trade. Nonetheless, I bought, while I was at the carnivorous plant place, because I knew I'd need peat, both for the deicers and And if I'm going to sell some on, I'd like to give some peat to other people so that when they come to split up and pot on, they've got the peat without having to worry about buying it and all that sort of stuff. And it was a 32 litre compressed bale. I'll be dead before I use all that. It's literally stands nearly a metre tall by that sort of size, and it's compressed, so it's compacted, and hopefully it's dry and not gone mouldy. And I will have to open it for the first time because I do have some left over from last time, but when we come back to the mix, it's basically said by volume 50% peat, 50% large perlite, and that's by volume, obviously not by weight. And I thought that's what I did, but I did do it by eye. I don't believe I actually physically measured it. So this time when I mix it up, we'll measure it. So yes, so we've got one pot with 3 possible flowering size blooms. If they all 3 of them bloom, they will make a lovely show. This is quite a tall Deesa, this one, and it's bright orange and it's quite large flowered. So I can't remember whether it's a multifloral or a single, I don't know. Some of the singles can occasionally produce two blooms on a single spike, but some of them have, you know, 7 or 8 blooms on a spike. They do vary. They tend to have smaller blooms though, more of them but smaller. So we're going to get 2 pots out of this. One of these 3 larger size ones will go in this size pot, yeah, and these smaller ones will just go in a smaller pot. I do have the next, oh, just want to show you, I suppose, the next size down. Basically I bought some new ones because I thought we're definitely going to need some, so we're down a size. They didn't have black and I thought, well, so what? They're grey. They're for growing on, not for show, if you know what I mean. So next size down, so we've got some of those. So all those little ones will go in one of those, and we'll clean up these. It's difficult working with such a messy thing. I'm just going to have a quick look. See, there's another pair. Are you still? Yes. This pair here are the same Deesa. So it's just those 2, just that pair. These 2 and this one are the same. So again, there's 3. 1 potful's failed, and two look okay. There's 4. So there's this one that looks like it's failed, apart from a couple of tiny little plants. This one is miserable failure, but these 2 look okay. So there's another set of 4 there. So when you start looking at this, you know, the fact that these empty pots are going to be taken out, and what's left, some of them are sets of 4, I'm not going to have that big a variety left at the end of this exercise. But hopefully the ones I have got will be nice strong growers. You know, it's like there's another nice pot full here. That is, I can't say it because the tag's upside down. But there are 2. In fact, there are 3. 1, 2, 3. Not quite sure how they've got separated like that. I'm going to resort these out so that they're in, you know, where there are multiples, they'll be in a row, and the gaps can be filled up with singles, not with empty pots. So again, we've got 1, 2, 3, and all 3 of those are good. Yeah, so that split obviously worked nicely. And then we've got a set of 4 there. That's an odd one. That's an odd one. That's a lost one. That's lost. That better not be lost. That was a beauty. Well, that's not good, and that one's empty. Those are the only two. So that one Deesa is reliant on that little corner to grow on. That one's lost. So as you can see, there are some miserable failures in amongst this lot. But nonetheless, I don't plan on doing this to all of them on the grounds that I don't know this is going to work. This could kill off this set. Yeah, they might not grow on now. I don't know whether they will or not. There's no reason why they shouldn't, but then in my head there was no reason why any of these should fail. But a lot have. So, and this isn't all of them. Some failures were not even passed on, but most of those that got dumped in the last Night of the Long Knives were basically due to the collapse of the staging when all of the Deesas were thrown on the floor, and quite a few of them were thrown out of their pots, and those just never recovered. So that didn't work at all well. But that was more an accident than anything else. Most of those in that set that got lost at that point were the actual tiny little species ones with the tiny little flowers, the sort of almost miniature plants as well. So for me they weren't such a great loss because, you know, I'm after the nice big bright coloured ones. That's really what I wanted. So there we go. So I will have another clear up. I'm going to have to sort out, I think the fact that I'm only going to do these two today, I'm reasonably certain that I've got enough of the media left over in a bag to just be able to do this bit and not have to go and open the bale and mix up some more. And then we will keep our eye on these closely to see whether they start to push on. And most of the others are just going to have to stay as they are. They'll either make it or they won't. But the pots that are absolutely empty, we've already dealt with a few of those, and there was obviously no life left in those pots, so I'm going to assume these empty pots are the same, but I will still empty them out and have a look. So when I've done all that and got myself sorted out, I'll be back and we'll get these potted up. Okay, now just looking through here. Betty Arnold clone 15, Suzette James clone 14, Betty Arnold clone 15, Russet Beauty. There were two pots, there's now only one, so maybe lost because the one that's left isn't very good. Deesa Q Pride, gone, that was the only one. This is Deesa Krieg Bros, and there was only one, so that one's lost. And then we've got the ones that we've just taken out of the pots, yeah, and that are about to be potted up, so that's obviously not lost. And then over here, those three are all the same, those three are all the same, those three are all the same, so that's three different varieties, 9 pots, and these are all individuals. So I will have to go through my notes and delete some lines, which is sad, but you know, I look at it like this. As a new genus, if I'd bought one and lost it, I wouldn't get any more. Whereas, you know, if I lose half of these, at least I've kept half of them. And I think some of the failings are due to following advice that may not have been the best for me in here. Now that's what's left of last time we did some potting. So that's without having to go outside into the carport and open the bale and get some more and mix it up. I'm hoping that's enough. I don't think it will be, but we will try. The only trouble with it is it's bone dry, and there is an inherent problem we found out last time. I potted some up and stood them in the tray of water expecting it to soak up, and it didn't. After 3 days the tops of the pots were still dry, so I ended up having to water it in, which is, it compacts it. It's much better, I think, to actually mix it up wet. So what I'm going to do is put it in this jug. We'll do the little ones first. Well, that's going to go in one of these smaller pots, so that's probably a bit more rather than run out. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some RO water and mix it. So we're doing puddings. Christmas cake, Christmas pudding mix. And then hopefully it'll start to absorb the water and we'll end up with a nice damp mix. Once it's wet, it soaks up the water reasonably well. It's just when it's dust dry it doesn't. So it needs some encouragement like now. So you can see it's holding the water now. Yeah. So and there's still a pile of water in the bottom there. So we'll add some more in. We can afford to. There's spare water. And then we'll end up with, like I say, a Christmas cake mix. I wouldn't recommend baking it and eating it, but that's what it reminds me of. Right, it's like I say, it's very messy doing this stuff because you know that's why I would like to pot my normal orchids. I pot dry, and I don't get any of this. I might get a little bit of dust now and again. Right, now comes the hard bit. We'll have a nice new pot, and as these are tiny little plants, we can pre-fill. Now, there's no compacting here. It's just a loose mix. So, you know, just gentle fill, and then let's go and recover our plants. So I've washed up all my pots and everything, got everything all cleaned up, and we've still got half a pot full of muck here. Right, so that was a big one, as was that, as was that. So everything else goes in this little pot here. So we've got one, I think there were 4 or 5, wasn't there? That's the one without a root tip that will probably fail. 3, 4, 5. So it's one in each corner and one in the middle. That's easy. Now, the easiest way to do this, I think, is to do like a dibber, like you would if you were, you know, if you had a seed tray full of bedding plants or something and you were planting them out, pricking them out, yeah, you would just use a dibber to actually make a hole and then gently, you know, fill. And I think that's what I'm going to do. So we'll level our pot, get it about how we want it, not too compacted, and then we can use one of these labels, so they will serve a purpose even if the plants are lost. And then we'll just make a little place like that and gently sink the roots in. It needs to be quite deep, this one, because it has actually got quite a long root. And we'll hopefully just gently tease that root in. It'll probably end up breaking. The others should just tuck in nicely, and it's got lovely new root tips, and then just gently push it in. So that's one done. Another long root, but at least it's a straight down root, so it's unlikely to break. I think that long root on that first one actually snapped. They are incredibly fragile. If you remember when I brought them home after my meeting in the car park with the guy, he gave me one that was an experiment, and basically the plants were in a pot with just a little bit of the moss that came out of the old pot when he set them up. They had no media, and all the roots were coming out the bottom of the pot and heading off into the water that he kept them in, into the tray, and they were healthy and growing well. I potted them and probably killed them. Right. Yeah, one of these has got to go in the middle, I think the one to go in the middle will be the one with the broken root tip, as it's liable to fail. So we'll get all the others set up nicely first in the corners. See, that's the problem when you get it's all very well having the heavy duty peat, but when it's got a big bit like that where you're trying to plant, it doesn't work. So we'll have to start again there, and there's another big lump there. That's it's stopping, that is what's stopping it getting planted. Now it'll go in. Right, so that's 4, and then the other one is going to go straight down the middle. As I say, I doubt if that one will survive, because it's mind you, it has got several other little root tips. If you have a look very closely, you see at the very base there's new roots sticking out. I can get the flipping thing to focus, which it's not going to do. But that central root, the long one, that's got a broken tip. But there's 2 new ones as well, so it might grow on. As I say, if these were little bedding plants, you'd be quite happy with what you were doing. But as I said, they might have more substantial roots than these. These are incredibly fragile. And you've got to look at them and they snap. See, that one's still not planted. It's this lumpy bits in this corner that's just stopping it going down in. Plus it's got a sideways root sticking out, which is stopping it. Let's try again. You're going to get planted whether you like it or not. Let's do it with my fingers. Make sure they're all roots are all in contact with the media. Like that. And then we have a little pot full. Label. Although it will be blatantly obvious what it is, because it's the only ones that are in a small pot. So that's that, and then we've got the big pot to do now. I'm wondering whether those 3 would still go in that size pot. Trouble is, the roots would be out the bottom of the pot straight away. No, we'd better stick to the larger size. But we'll need more media than that, that's for sure. That looks a bit more like it. And what I'm going to do this time is hook out the big bits. Those that I can see anyway. I won't get them all, but it might help ease the roots in. These are quite solid lumps. This is, coarse grade peat, but that doesn't mean to say, what I did last time with those big lumps is I broke them up before I actually used them, so that they still got used. Tedious, but like that, it's a large flat piece. That breaks up into lots of little pieces, and then they get mixed in. It's a bit dry, so we better have a bit more water. As I say, it's once it's wet, it's fine, but it didn't work last time when I stood the pots in water. The dry peat just, as I say, after 3 days, the top of the pots was still bone dry. There we go, that'll do. Right, get rid of that mess, the amount of muck that's gone on the floor as well. And I can't use the hoover while it's wet. Right, so now I'm going to look at what I'm doing. See, now that has got new roots coming out here. That's the stolon with the energy in it. And it's got one big long root coming off that's going to stop me potting it. So that root's going to have to be sacrificed. There's no way I can pot that with that root. It's going to break. And these don't seem to be branching root systems. If you look at all the roots on there, none of them are branching. They seem to grow a root, and that root extends. So that one is not going to pop very well. This one again, one long root and lots of shorter ones, including some nice new ones. So again, this root's going to stop me cracking on. We'll try threading it into a deep hole with the dibber. Same here. We've got the roots coming out higher up and the stolon with some more new roots. So there's, you know, it's got active roots on it. But I suspect the longest one in each case is going to break. We will do what we can. I suppose the easiest thing is to start with very little. This would be great if I was only planting one. Now there's a thought. See, if I was only planting one, I could hold the plant and add the media. That wouldn't break the roots. So is it worth putting each one of these in a small pot? I think it is, you know. I am. Even though it means more pots to look after, it's not the end of the world. I'm going to put these in individual pots. Don't forget, at the end of this season, hopefully these will have bloomed and they will be growing lots of new little plants. And that can be lifted and put in a bigger pot without doing all this, because it won't have the old media in it. It'll have this old media in it, but this isn't old. Right, so if we just hold that, what we can do now, you see, is just hold that in place. Let's get me media where I can get at it. Just hold the plant at the depth I want it and effectively backfill. And that way I'm not damaging any roots, I'm just filling up, you know, like I would with a normal orchid. See, already that plant's now secure. And we just keep adding the media up to the base of the plant. And I can now lift that plant a little bit to get it higher in the pot. And it will bring the roots with it without breaking them, so that I can get it in a greater depth of media. So we add the media and then lift the plant until we get the base of the plant nearer the top of the pot. That way it's got the greatest depth of media to grow on. There we go, one done. We're not going to have enough labels, would you believe? I will have to do some new ones. Right, I think this is a better idea. This is doing far less damage to the existing roots. So I think this is going to be a safer idea to get these plants going. They still might fail. There's still no guarantee this is going to work. But hopefully I've got a better chance of getting it to work this way. The least root damage, the better. So again, we get enough in here to hold the roots and hold the plant, like that. Didn't give that one a tap, did I? Make sure it's settled in. And then again, I can lift the plant and add some more media around until I get the plant at the depth I want it. Which with this one is roughly right. All the root tips are under the media. Give it a tap, settle it in, label, so we've got Betty Arnold clone 15, small pot, another small pot, Betty Arnold clone 15, another small pot, and we'll have one without a label, but I know what it is because it's the, as I said, these are the only ones in the small pots. Now, I've run out of media again. Oh, please be enough. And I tip it all in, we'll mix it all up. I'm going to keep this bag because I think later today, I might do it today, I'm not you know, we're in decent mode, whatever you want to call it, and at some point I'm going to have to go and open that bale. And I forgot at the last Orchid Society meeting, but I was asked to bring a bag of peat for my friend Alan. You've seen his greenhouses. I have filmed there before. He's one of our best growers, quite honestly. Probably say he is our best one. And he's got some decers, but he hasn't got any peat. So the fact that I got that bag full for people who are going to grow decers, I thought, well, just as well take him some. Who knows, when he gets some big potfuls, I might get some of his. They certainly seem to be a sharing orchid, because if you start growing them reasonably well, you know, where you have one, at the end of the season you might have a dozen. You might only have 4, but you've got 4. You know, they naturally spread and grow new plants. Whereas with your other types of orchids, your oncidiums and your cattleyas, you know, if you're lucky, they grow well enough and big enough to be able to split them. But you know, you don't get a dozen in a pot, do you? Right, let's get this last one in, and then we can have a really good clear up. So I'm not doing any more. If you imagine these sets of 3, that set, and that set, if I attempted to do that with all of those pots, I'd have a week's worth of work. You've seen how long it's taken to just do 1 pot full. So imagine trying to do all of those. I am going to have to do it eventually, because any that are in the old media, I am suspecting is the problem. It's the fact that the old media got left there with its moss and everything else. And I think that might be the problem. Why some of these just haven't grown on and some have failed miserably. That might not be true, but what else can it be? You know. This will sort of prove the point. So despite it not being the best time of year to do it, because if this was done in the autumn, these would have established all those new roots that we've seen. Those should have grown on by now, and the plant should have settled in nicely. You know, had a reasonable set of roots and should be growing on by now. And that would be true if this has been done at the right time. But I'm hoping better late than never. And that is the last of the media, and it's the one without a label. So there we go. So that's thinned out my tray quite a bit, but there's still enough pots in here to have to keep this method going. You see, 6 of these pots would fit in a normal seed tray. I can't get that one at the moment. You know what I mean, normal size seed tray. 6 of these pots fit in there exactly. Yeah? Well, that would be 1 seed tray, 2 seed trays. I'd have 3 seed trays on the go, all of which are liftable, manageable, and it would work. But at the moment, I'm going to leave things as they are, because I only change the water and between a week and 10 days, something like that. So we've now got to set that back up over there on the twin tables and get the new water in and clear up. We've got a lot of clearing up to do, a lot of clearing up. And then we've got to update my notes to actually delete quite a few lines in my spreadsheet of ones that are no longer with us. Now sometimes that's 1 of 2 pots, so we've still got the decer, but you know, each pot has a line in my notes, so there'll be quite a few lines to get rid of, on top of what's already been done, don't forget. I've already done this once earlier in the year. Anyway, that's it. That's my little game, mud pies. And we'll keep our eye on these pots and see how they progress. Before I finish, and before I get the water in this tray and everything gets really soggy, I will put those 4 new pots, those little pots that we've just done, in a row and film them close up. I'll get the camera down and handheld it not like that. And we'll get a close-up of them as they are now on whatever it is, 20th of April, 19th, whatever it is. Who knows? And we'll go from there. So I won't ask you if you've enjoyed that, but some people do like seeing other people work. And this is an experiment. I don't know if this is going to work. This is not being done from experience. I'm not repeating something I've done loads of times before. That's the first time I've done that. So it might be a miserable failure. Time will tell. Now my hands are so dirty I can't even turn the camera off at the moment. I'm going to clean a little finger so that I can press the red button and stop recording. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by. Okay, I forgot to film them on the bench, so the tray's been moved now. We'll film them here. So we've got that one does have a new leaf. This one has a new leaf. This one is probably looking the best of all of the 3 singles. And then the 5 little plants that we planted up, some signs of growth on some of them. That one might not make it. That was the one with a broken root, but it did have some others. So anyway, that's what they look like on the 21st of April, having had one of the community pots completely split down, all the weak or useless plants taken out, and what was left that seemed reasonable to grow on have been potted up in smaller pots with new media, and all the old media rinsed off, so they're starting from scratch. We'll see what they look like in say a month, something like that.